Hello, Assalamu alaikum students. So let's begin with the first chapter on fluid properties. In everyday life, we recognize three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. Although different in many respects, liquid and gases have a common characteristics in which they differ from solid. That is, the liquid, they lack the ability of solid to form permanent resistance to a deforming force. As we have discussed earlier, the liquids, they cannot resist shear force, and that is the reason that they deform very easily under a very small amount of shear force applied. Fluid flow under the action of such forces, deforming continuously for as long as the force is applied. A fluid is unable to retain any unsupported shape. It flows under its own weight and takes the shape of any solid body with which it comes into contact. Now the deformation is caused by the shearing forces. Such force F, which acts tangentially to the surface to which they are applied, and cause the material originally applying the space ABCD to deform to AB'C''D. So let's see that. So let's say this element ABCD, a force, tangential force is applied at the CN, and under this applied force, it deforms and takes a new shape AB''C''D, and this angle, the change in angle, this known as shear strain phi. And if we consider any point E on this phase CD, the horizontal change is x and the distance to this point is y. So basically, a fluid is a substance which deforms continuously under the action of shearing forces, however small they may be. And conversely, if a fluid is at rest, there can be no shearing forces acting, and therefore all forces in the fluid must be perpendicular to the plane upon which they act. Shearing forces are produced because of velocity, change in velocity. As when the fluid is at rest, there is no change of velocity, so the shear stress will be zero. And the fluid, the forces will be the pressure force, and pressure force is always normal to the surface. Normal means perpendicular. So pressure force at this point, I want to add one thing. Let's consider this side to be the, let's consider this tank, and if I want to draw the pressure force, so pressure force is basically a triangular distribution. Let me draw the water level. This is the water level. This triangle shows the top surface of water level, and the pressure exerted by this liquid to any side, it is a triangular distribution, with the pressure being maximum at the base and zero at the water level, and it is always normal to the surface. On this right side it is normal to it, on the other side it will be normal to it. At the base, the pressure force is acting downward, and on that the distribution is uniform distribution. So here at this point you must remember that the forces in the fluid are perpendicular to the plane upon which they act. So let's try and determine the shear force in moving fluid. So as we have seen that the shear stress in a fluid at rest is zero. The shear stresses are developed when the fluid is in motion. Because of change of velocity, the shear stresses are produced. So if the particle of the fluid move relative to each other so that they have different velocities, causing the original shape of the fluid to become distorted. If on the other hand, the velocity of the fluid is same at every point, so again no shear force will be produced, no shear stresses will be produced, since the fluid particles are at rest relative to each other. Usually we are concerned with the flow past a solid boundary. That is when a fluid comes in contact with a solid boundary. The fluid in contact with the boundary adheres to it. It tries to stick to it and therefore have the same velocity as the boundary. That is, the fluid will try to be at rest, or it will try to stick to the boundary, reducing its velocity. So considering the successive layer parallel to the boundary, so if we are considering a boundary and we divide the fluid above it in the form of layers, the velocity of the fluid will vary from layer to layer as the y increases. So we're going to see that in the figure in the next slide. Let me show that first. So this is the boundary. The blue lines, this shows the boundary, and these lines with the arrowhead, they represent the fluid layers. So we have divided the depth of fluid in number of layers, and each layer, it represents different velocity. The velocity at the free surface, the top surface at the water level, the velocity is maximum, and as we go downward, the fluid velocity, it decreases, and at the boundary the velocity is 0. So if I draw the velocity distribution curve taking the depth y on the vertical axis and velocity on the horizontal axis, I will have this velocity distribution. This is called velocity distribution. And this is parabolic in nature. So velocity at the free surface, it will be maximum, and it will reduce as we are going downward, approaching the boundary or the bed, and it will be 0 at on touching the boundary. Okay. Um, So as we have seen the previous element ABCD, under the force applied on its CN, the shearing force. Um, so let me redraw that element over here. And this was A, B, C, and D. And a force was acting at point C. Now the thickness of this element ABCD is S. That is the perpendicular outer plane dimension is S. So a force is acting on BC length, and this is shearing force, and we know shearing stress tau will be force per unit area, and area is always parallel to the shear force. So in computing the shear stress tau, this is the shear stress tau, which is force per unit area. So the area will be the shearing area, that is BC into S. And as we know, this under this applied force, it will deform, and the angle of deformation was phi. So phi was basically, it can be taken equal to x over y, as we know that tan theta, this is approximately equal to theta for small angles, so this is x over y, where we had considered a point E, for which the horizontal change in shape was x and its vertical was y. You can refer back to the previous figure. This derivation has been taken by the fluid mechanics book by Douglas, so you can refer to the book as well. So in a fluid, the shear strain phi will continue to increase with time and the fluid will flow. So this is a very important point, that in a fluid, the shear strain phi will continue to increase with time and the fluid will flow. So it has been found experimentally that in true fluid, the rate of shear strain or the shear strain per unit time is directly proportional to shear stress. So rate of shear strain will be phi over t, which is x over yt, and we can further rearrange it and take x over t in one way, and which is velocity. So rate of shear strain is u over y, where u is the velocity and y is the distance. So shear stress is directly proportional to rate of shear strain, which is u over y, and the proportionality, it is removed by adding a constant, and that constant is mu, the dynamic viscosity. So this law is known as Newton's law of viscosity. So this is the basic equation which you are going to use many times and you have to remember it by heart. This is known as Newton's law of viscosity, where tau is a shear stress, mu is the dynamic viscosity, du is the change of velocity, and y is the distance. So let's summarize and let's see the differences between solids and fluid. The first difference is, for the solid, the strain is a function of applied stress, provided that the elastic limit is not exceeded. Whereas for the fluid, the rate of strain is proportional to applied stress. And the second difference is, the strain in a solid is independent of the time over which the force is applied. That means if a force is applied and for as long as the force is there, the strain will remain constant if the elastic limit is not exceeded. The deformation disappears when the force is removed. So within the elastic range, as the force is removed, the object, it will come back to its original position, original shape. Whereas a fluid, it continues to flow for as long as the force is applied and will not recover its original form when the force is removed. So in most cases, substances, they can be classified easily as either solids or fluid. However, there are certain cases like pitch and glass, they appear to be solid because the rate of deformation under their own weight is very small. You must have seen pitch, which is bitumen, which is a very thick substance, and its flowability, it increases at elevated temperature. So basically heat it and then spread it over the surface. So pitch is usually a fluid which will flow and spread over a surface under its own weight, but it will take days to do so rather than milliseconds. However, solids will flow and become plastic when subjected to force sufficiently large to produce a stress in a material which exceeds the elastic limit. So there is this term yielding, that is, after the elastic limit is exceeded, we have a yielding zone where without increasing the force, the deformation is increasing. So that is actually behavior of fluid, that without increasing a force, it is continuously deforming. So solids, they will also behave as fluid after a certain yield is exceeded. And they will also creep under sustained loading. Creep is a phenomena that under applied loading, which has sustained there for a longer duration, it will deform without any increase of further load. So this takes place after years of load being applied on the surface, and the deformation, it increases with time. So basically the material property that is being exhausted now under the application of force. So these plastic substances, they do not meet the definition of a true fluid, since the shear stress must exceed a certain minimum value before the flow commences. So they're not true fluids. The plastic, they can behave as fluid, but they're not true fluid, since they have to exceed a minimum yield value before the flow it begins. Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluids. So all those fluids which obey the Newton's law of viscosity are known as Newtonian fluids, and those who do not obey are non-Newtonian fluids. So let's see the graphical representation for Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluids. So for that we have shear stress tau on the vertical axis, and rate of shear du dy on the horizontal axis. And as we know, for Newtonian fluids, they obey the Newton's law of viscosity, which is tau is equal to mu du over dy. So as the shear stress, tau is directly proportional to rate of shear du over dy, and that proportionality, it is removed by this mu, which is known as dynamic viscosity. So this mu, this should basically, it remains constant. It should remain constant for Newtonian fluids. So we will have this linear line having constant slope, and this slope is mu. But as we know, non-Newtonian fluids, they are not going to obey it. So by that, this means that this mu value, it is going to change constantly. And we have two fluids, pseudoplastics and dilatant, and we are going to see them one by one. Um, and you can also see the change of slope, uh, which is evident in the curve shape. Similarly for pseudoplastic as well. So pseudoplastic are those substances where with the increase of shear stress, uh, their viscosity, it decreases. And dilated substances are those where with the increase of shear stress, their viscosity increases. So the example of pseudoplastic is cement or quicksand. Um, so cement, as you know, when we are making concrete, we add cement, coarse aggregate, fine aggregate, and water to it, and we put it in a mixer which has shear veins. And initially, the material, it is very solid, and uh, it is not that flowable. The workability is very low. But when you put it in a mixer, and it and the veins, they move at that constant shear force for 2 minutes or some time, and what happens basically is the workability is increased. So what happened? The same ingredients were there already, but just because of mixing, the workability has increased. So this is because the viscosity has reduced. So viscosity of the mixture has reduced, so the flowability has increased. At this point, I would like to add the example of comparing honey with water. As we know, honey is much more viscous. Honey has more viscosity as compared to water, and the flowability of honey is less. It will take more time to flow from one point to another as compared to water, because it is more viscous. So when I say that the cement, and because of the applied shear force by the veins in a concrete mixer, the viscosity has reduced, so its flowability has increased, the workability has increased. The other example of pseudoplastic is uh, quicksand. So quicksand is daldal. So as you know, if you are stuck in daldal or quicksand, you will continue to penetrate inside it. In order to come out of it, what you can do is you can move your legs very slowly, and once you are moving your legs in one way, what happens is you are trying to induce shear stresses to it, and under that shear stresses its viscosity is decreased, and eventually it will become flowable, it will become loose, and you can get out of it. So what happens when if a rescue team is there, they actually have those drilling machines with them, and they actually induce vibrations, and which actually enables the quicksand to become flowable, reducing its viscosity, and then it becomes easier to pull out the person or anything which is stuck inside it. So for the dilatant substances, as I told, with the increase of shear stress, its viscosity has increased. So the examples are oblique. Oblique, this is a mixture of cornstarch and water. So take 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and 1 tablespoon of water. That is oblique. And oblique, basically what happens is initially this will appear to be liquid, a mixture which is a liquid, but if you grab it in your hands and you apply force to it, okay, if you just put it in your palm and close your fist and apply force with the help of your fingers to the oblique, what will happen, it will solidify. That is, its viscosity has increased, its flowability has reduced, it has turned to solid. So if you have a solution of oblique and you put it in your palm and then you apply force to it, just close your fist and apply force with your fingers to it, and what will happen, it will solidify, its viscosity has increased. So another example of dilatant substances is body armor. So body armor is actually a liquid which is used in life-saving jackets, um, the bulletproof jackets. So those bulletproof jackets, they actually have that liquid in it, and that liquid is actually flowable, moving, and it appears to be light, and but what happens if a bullet suddenly touch to it, it will instantly turn to a solid, and that actually is an example of dilatant substances that will viscosity will instantly change as it is hit by anything. Now let's see this plastic. So for the plastic, as you can see, we have this much, you can say, the minimum value, the yield value, that for this much shear stress, it was basically a solid, but after this limit, this is called limit. After this limit has exceeded, it will flow under the shear stress, and uh, um, with the increase of shear stress, deformation that is different, not linear, and so this is the behavior of plastic, and if we linearize this behavior, it is known as Bingham plastic. Now let's see ideal fluids. So ideal fluids, you all are aware, ideal fluids are those which are non-viscous and incompressible. So if it is ideal, so it has to be non-viscous. So by non-viscous, it means the shear stress is zero. So it will be basically a linear line touching the horizontal axis. So all what we have discussed in the previous slide, this is already written in this slide. The new terms are thixotropic substances and rheophatic substances. Thixotropic substances are those for which the dynamic viscosity decreases with time, for which the shearing forces are applied. So thixotropic substances are basically have the same behavior as pseudoplastic, but the change is that the same amount of shear force is applied for a longer duration. In pseudoplastic and dialysate substances, the shear stress value was increased and then the change in viscosity was observed. While in thixotropic and euphatic substances, the same shear force is applied for a longer duration. So, a thixotropic substances is that for which the dynamic viscosity decreases with the time for which the shearing forces are applied. And rheophatic substances are those for which the dynamic viscosity increases with the time for which the shearing forces are applied. So example of rheophatic material is cream. So cream basically this is in a form of you can say liquid or you can say a thick milk. It appears to be thick milk, and but if you beat it with the help of a beater, and a beater has a constant speed, so it is basically a constant shear force applied to it, and if you apply it for a longer duration, like after 5 to 10 minutes of beating the cream, it will condense, it will increase its volume, and its flowability will be reduced. As you've seen the topping of cream on cake, it is not flowing, it keeps its shape. That is because it has changed its form, its viscosity has increased. So example of thixotropic substances is thixotropic jelly paints or painter ink or honey. Honey, if you stir the honey for a longer duration, its viscosity is actually reduced. And then viscoelastic materials, which behave in a manner similar to Newtonian fluids under time invariant conditions, but if the shear stress changes suddenly, they behave as if plastics. So here we have some examples of these behavior type. We have already seen them. The one which we have not seen is this tomato sauce. Tomato sauce is under pseudoplastic or shear thinning. That means that with the increase of shear stress, its viscosity is reduced. So let's consider the example. If you have a sauce bottle and if you open it and you flip it to in order to pour it in a plate, but the sauce, it does not come out, it has actually stick to the sides of the bottle, and what you do actually is you just tap the bottom of that bottle. What we do is we tap the bottom of that bottle by actually hitting the bottle. What we are doing is we are inducing shear stresses to it. So that ketchup, that actually because of that induced force, its viscosity, it actually reduces and it easily comes out of the bottle. So this is the example of shear thinning or pseudoplastic. So there are some other example for non-Newtonian fluid, and there is this one phenomena called liquefaction. You must have heard of it. Liquefaction is a phenomena which happens in clay layer, the saturated clay layer. So if that saturated clay layer, it is hit by any shear force that may be produced by earthquake. So when earthquake hits that clay layer, what happens? The clay, it just appears to be like running liquid. So basically its viscosity is uh, increased, its viscosity has reduced and it becomes flowable, and the clay layer, the complete clay layer, it moves to the other side, and this phenomena is called liquefaction, and because of that we observe differential settlement. One of the example is in the construction of Pisa Tower in Italy. You must have seen the Pisa Tower. It is inclined to almost 4.5 degrees, and it is observed differential settlement that happened because of the phenomena, this liquefaction during its construction, and that building, it is actually inclined and So now let's see the units of viscosity. As we know, the viscosity, this will be ratio of shear stress to velocity gradient, where shear stress is force per unit area and velocity gradient is change of velocity to distance. So velocity is length over time, so into 1 over length. So length cancel out, and we take this time to the numerator. So we get force into time over area, which is length square. So in MKS, we know force is represented by kgf and the length is in meter. So the units of viscosity, it will become kgs seconds per meter square. In CGS, the force is represented by dyne and the length is by centimeter. So the CGS units of viscosity is dyne seconds per centimeter square, which is known as poise, P-O-I-S-E, poise. And in SI, the force is represented by newtons and length by meters. So the SI units of viscosity is Newton second per meter square, which is known as Pascal seconds. Newton per meter square is Pascals, so Pascal seconds. So let's see the conversion of units. We are going to convert MKS to CGS. As we know, the MKS units are kgf seconds per meter square. So in order to convert kgf to Newton, we will have to multiply it by 9.81. So you can easily remember it by this one conversion, that the density of water is 1000 kg per meter cube. And the uh, specific weight gamma is 9810 Newton per meter cube. So you can always remember that the value of Newton is always greater than kg, and it is greater by 9.81. So 1 kg of seconds per meter square, it can be converted to kgf, can be converted to Newton by multiplying it by 9.81. So here we have converted MKS to SI, and we know 1 Newton is kg into meter per second square. So 1 kg into 1 meter per second square. Convert the kg to grams and meter to centimeter. So 1 Newton is 1000 gram into 100 centimeter over second square, which is actually 10 raised to power 5 dyne. As we know, 1 dyne is gram centimeter per second square. So let's substitute this value of 1 Newton in this above equation. So 1 Newton is basically 10 raised to power 5 dyne. So 1 kg seconds per meter square is 9.81 into 10 raised to power 5 dyne seconds per meter square. And now convert this meter square to centimeter square. So 1 meter is 100 centimeters, so 100 into 100. So simplify, this is 10 raised to power 4 and this is 10 raised to power 5, so we will be left with only 10. So it is 9.81 into 10 is 98.1 dyne seconds per centimeter square. So this dyne seconds per centimeter square is poise. So we have that 1 kg second per meter square is 98.1 poise. So this is actually the final form, which you always remember, the conversion of MKS to SI, then to CGS. And most commonly used is the SI to CGS. So 1 Newton seconds per meter square. This is equal to 98.1 divided by 9.81, which is 10 poise. So 1 poise is 0.1 Newton second per meter square. So I've seen most of the times the student remember that it is uh, the factor is of 10, but they forget it with which system of units it is 10. So you can remember it that the Newton second per meter square is a bigger system of units, so it will have a smaller value, while poise is from a smaller system of units, so its value should be larger. So 1 Newton second per meter square, this is basically 10 poise. So it is easier to remember, or you can say 1 poise is 0.1 Newton second per meter square. So if any of this expression, if you remember it, you can easily convert from the one system to other. Now kinematic viscosity. Kinematic viscosity is new, and this is the ratio of dynamic viscosity to mass density, and its units are meter square per second. You can perform the dimension analysis and determine its units. We have already done it on our previous slides. In CGS, its units are centimeter square per second, which is known as Stoke. So 1 Stoke is centimeter square per second, or 10 to the power minus 4 meter square per second. You do not need to remember its typical values. You just need to know the typical value of density. Mass density is a specific mass. It is a ratio of mass per unit volume. Its units are kg per meter cube, and the typical value for water is 1000 kg per meter cube, and for air it is 1.23 kg per meter cube. Specific weight. Specific weight, it is represented by two symbols, gamma and W. So in this case, we're using any of the two. In this derivation, all this content is taken from the fluid mechanics application by Dr. R.K. Bansal. So he uses a symbol, this W. So never be confused, because both symbols can be used. So specific weight, this is a ratio of weight per unit volume. So this specific weight, this is the ratio of weight per unit volume, and weight is actually mass into gravitational acceleration, and this mass over volume is actually rho. So from here we get that the specific weight is equal to rho g. So if you know the density value, you can multiply by 9.81, and you will get that the water specific weight is 9810 Newton per meter cube. So for water, you must remember it is 9810 Newton per meter cube. Now specific gravity. Specific gravity is basically the ratio of mass density of a substance to some standard liquid. So that standard liquid is actually water at 4 degrees centigrade. So density of water at 4 degrees centigrade is 1000 kg per meter cube. And you can simply remember these formula. So specific gravity, it could be the ratio of density of the liquid to the density of water, or it could be the ratio of weight density, that is a specific weight, because it is also density into gravitational acceleration. So you can take the ratio of their specific density, or even if you know that the volume of the liquid is same as the volume of water, the volume is constant, you can also take the ratio of their weights. For gases, it is again the density of the gas to the density of air, or the weight density of gas to weight density of air. So specific volume, this is actually 1 over rho. This is actually the ratio of volume over the mass, or you can simply remember it as a reciprocal of mass density. So here are some numerical problems for which I've also provided the solution. So I would like all of you to solve these numericals yourself, and we will discuss them in our online session. So there are 5 numerical problems, and if you have any query, we can discuss it in our online session. So that's it for today. Thank you so much. All the best. Allah Hafiz.